Welcome to the Thought Brothers. We ain't starting until I ask some questions here. William Spivey, you are the agitator. Do you believe? Do you believe in Coach Prime?
I believe.
Carlos the banker, we ain't going anywhere. Do you believe? Do you believe?
I believe in Coach Prime.
Well, then I can do this because I make this look good. September 13th. Here we go, folks. We're going to kick it over to the banker. Welcome to the Thought Brothers. I'm Gary Johnson, a.k.a. Mr. Producer. And for the record, I believe.
Man, you look, guys. Hey, Gary and Mr. Spock, how you guys doing, man? First of all, let's get started. Before we honor Coach Prime, how you guys feeling this week about all the things that happened? And we're going to start out with some positivity, not negativity this week. We're going to talk about Coach Prime getting things done. We're going to talk about Coco Golf getting things done. You know what? And I'm going to take the Cowboys 40-0 victory over the Giants as a positive note being a Washington Commanders fan.
I was wondering when you go bring that up.
I know that's Mr. Spivey's team, but I'm going to go ahead and say this. Mr. Spivey, guess what? It became official to me that the Washington Commanders are not the worst team in the NFC East after watching the New York Giants lose 40-0 to the Cowboys. I predict, based on that performance, the New York Giants are the worst team in the NFC East. If you can't score a point at home on opening day with your starting quarterback playing the entire way, come on, man. Come on.
I mean, that's what happened. You run into that buzzsaw, brother. You run into that buzzsaw.
Okay.
I mean, it was a whipping. I got to say it. It was a whipping. But Dallas, I have to say Dallas surprised me. They really surprised me. Okay. And, I had a few doubts because Dak didn't play at all in the preseason. Mm-hmm. And, you had heard all of this stuff on First Take and Undisputed, but they came through. Okay. And, I know everybody's going to say the same thing that they said about Coach Prime after he beat TCU. And they say, oh, that's just one game. So now you got two games. They don't beat Nebraska. And Nebraska, no pushover. So now this week, they're coming with Colorado State. And if they win that one, I'm going to see what they're going to be saying. Oh, it's just 3 games. We had predictions last week. You and Gary said, I think, 10-2. And I said their record last year of 1-11 was just going to be flipped around to 11-1.
I want to make a bold prediction to America and the world tonight that the younger Sanders, who is a starting quarterback for the Colorado Buffaloes, will pass for more yards in his first 2 games than Aaron Rodgers will pass for this entire season in the NFL.
Hey, man, thanks for going out on the limb.
Hey, look, if I can make $75 million guaranteed and not even finish the first series of plays, man, we all in the wrong field. But, I ain't going to hate the player. I'm just going to hate the game because the game is paying him all that money and it's guaranteed contract and his career might be over with that Achilles.
That's exactly right.
Aaron Rodgers, great quarterback. I hope he gets well soon. But, geez, baby, that's a lot of money for a few plays. Woo!
And Carlos, you got to say, he gave him, 45 seconds? Fitzpatrick did give you all 45 minutes and walked away with $10 million. But
crazy.
You all get on me about being a researcher. I was researching something tonight, and it was unbelievable. Talking about Shedeur Sanders. Mm-hmm. They're already talking about him.
Sure.
And they said Sanders rushed for 9 touchdowns and 9 TDs through in the 77.5% at Colorado. 903 passes already this year, 903 yards passing, 6 TDs. His quarterback rating is 83.7, his QB rating. And they are saying at this point in time that he should go number 3 in the draft next year.
Well, we appreciate number 3, but I'm thinking Heisman and going number 1 if he can keep his performance up. I don't think he's thrown an interception yet.
Not one interception. not
Nope.
one. And nine touchdowns when he was at Jackson State. And he's already threw for 6 in 2 games at Colorado.
Well, I think you got to believe in Coach Prime. And you know what? I'll tell you this. I believe that in order for any coach or team to be successful, you have to have great coaching and you have to have great players. Okay. Phil Jackson, they never work on a team in the NBA as a head coach unless he had Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen or Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal. You know, when he went to the front office as the president of the New York Knicks, he didn't have Hall of Famers on his team, and Knicks didn't do anything. So I think the key is you got to have great players and great coaches. I think Phil Jackson's a great coach, but without the great players, you can't go anywhere. And I think what Deion has done, Deion has gone in, and he had to do it at Jackson State, right? Remember, none of this works unless he does it at Jackson State. If he doesn't have success at Jackson State, he's not going to have success at Colorado, because now he built a following at Jackson State. And some of his press conferences at Jackson State saying things like, if you want change, you gotta make change. And you know, he's very inspiring. He knows how to lead a locker room. He knows how to lead young men. He got them boys playing down at Jackson State. And then, you know, they win the conference 2 years in a row, play for the national championship, even though they lost it this past year. That gets him to Colorado. He gets to Colorado, and the transfer portal is wide open for him, man. People, he ain't even got to call nobody no more. They want to come play for Coach Prime in Colorado. So I think who knows how long he'll be at Colorado, because now you got to think, if he has a couple good years at Colorado, he's going to the NFL. But he did say he doesn't want to coach overpriced adults or something to that effect. Overpaid adults. And you know what? I think Coach Prime is a man of his word, but I also think he counts the money in his bank account. So I do think that if they offer him some crazy contract, 4-year contract, $80 million or something crazy to go to the NFL, what's the top coach in the NFL make now? Like Bill Belichick, what's he make? $10 million a year or $15 million a year or something like that? If they make Coach Prime the highest paid coach in the NFL for even a 4-year contract or 5-year contract, or Coach Prime gonna take the money. I can't see Deion Sanders saying, nah, I don't want that money. I'll stick with my what's he making, $5 million in Colorado? I'm gonna turn down 10 or 15 from the or the 20 from the NFL. So I think Coach Prime, he gonna have the players. His scheme obviously works. You know, being a Commanders fan, watching them go through all these quarterbacks over the last 30 years, it seemed like at one point for about 10 to 12 years, they couldn't even throw a forward pass correctly. And Deion Sanders goes to a top 5 power conference in NCAA college football, and he's throwing a ball like it's nothing. It's incredible. They won 1 game last year. They already won 2 this year. Come on, man. Somebody give me some comments, because Prime, as a leader, regardless of the situation, is doing his thing. He's doing it.
Man, Prime was on Undisputed on Monday, and he said, man, this is just the second game. We're not even ramped up yet. He said, we're going to be better. We're going to be better on both sides of the ball. Both sides. Now, the only reason I was watching Undisputed is because Prime was on, because the new format, it ain't working for me. It ain't working for me with Michael Irvin, with Richard Sherman. It's too many cooks in the kitchen. Yeah. And 2 of the cooks are trying to talk over the chef. Okay. And it just ain't working. And one of the cooks is rather inarticulate, I'll say. You all just fill in the blank, which one. But yeah, I'm not feeling that. But I did listen to Coach Prime. We gonna get better. That's what he said. Yes.
All right.
Well, I can tell you on that Undisputed, I think Skip Bayless made a big mistake. And I think he could have just gotten by with replacing Shannon Sharp with Richard Sherman.
Richard Sherman, yep.
If you look at the show, the only person that does not talk over someone, interrupt someone, and make comments the whole time the other one is speaking is Richard Sherman. But it says something that you go to Stanford and you didn't go just to play football, you went to get an education too. But one of the things I wanted to talk about is, and I heard this on one of the podcasts, they believe that Shedeur Sanders is going to be in the NFL draft for next year. And one of the people that I listened to talk said that they don't think that he will leave next year, that he will probably stay one more year. I don't know if you're all familiar, but the Travis Hunter, you remember he was the #1 recruit in the country. And I think during that time, it was a big muckety muck with Nick Saban because he wanted Travis Hunter to come to Alabama and could not understand why Travis Hunter went to a HBCU school, Jackson State, to play for Deion. Well, there's another kid, he's 6'3", 205, is the #1 recruit, is a 15-year-old quarterback from, I think he's from somewhere in Chicago or somewhere, but he's already made the statement that he is coming to Colorado to play for Deion. So I can foresee some problems in the future because a lot of these coaches are going to start getting real irritated. And I think it will start with Alabama and a few of the other ones because this portal, it's going to be overloaded with people that want to come to play for Deion. If you remember in the game with, I think it was Nebraska. Yeah, I think, was it Nebraska? Where one of the kids got hurt, the running back got hurt. And Deion went over and put his hand on the kid's head and told the kid, "You are great. Get up and be great." And the kid got up off the ground, and the coach said he had never seen anything like it. That kid had asked to come to Colorado to play for Deion, and Deion wouldn't pull him off the portal because he said it wasn't good enough.
Well, I'll tell you this, guys. Look at this, right? We got a couple things that can happen. Like I said, I do predict Deion to be there. He's going to do at least one more year at Colorado. I think he's going to do 2 at Jackson State, 2 at Colorado, and get an NFL contract. I mean, now, again, Colorado has paid him handsomely, right? But I do think that he's going to go after the money. Now, again, is 2 years going to be enough at Colorado? We'll see. And then if he only stays 2 years at Colorado, similar to the Jackson State situation, then all the kids who committed to go there for 4 years and play for Deion are going to be a little upset when Deion rolls out and leaves it to one of his assistants. So, but you got to play for the moment, man. Everything's about the moment. Right now, Colorado is hot. Colorado is must-see TV. Colorado is being YouTube recorded by Mr. Spivey and myself. How about you, Gary?
I get it. Oh, yeah. Look,
we ain't missing no plays. We ain't missing no plays, baby.
I believe.
You gotta believe.
Put
That's
hands on me. Yes.
That's it. And he's actually healing people. He's touching people.
That's right.
He's bringing injured players back. Look, he's pointing in the back of your screen there. I mean, look, I think Deion, I got to admire him because I think what this does it open up the door for other great NFL players of color to get prominent head coaching positions, whether it be HBCU, whether it be Division I college, and in the NFL, right? I think based on shows we've previously done, with 3 black coaches in NFL, 13 black coaches out of 113 Division I schools, and Deion's 14 now, unless someone got fired in between. I mean, the percentages just aren't there. But Deion has given us all a reason to look and say, damn, if this guy can make this happen, then we gotta, take a look at this and take this seriously. And you're right. Coaches like Nick Saban down in Alabama, who's starting to lose a little bit now. Florida State, what's the guy? Clemson, Dabo Swinney. They starting to lose a little bit now, right? And makes you wonder that, how many, if Deion took that portal and got all these guys at Colorado, how many of them guys might have went to Alabama or Clemson or one of those big programs is now suddenly starting to lose a little bit. So I think the impact's going to come, and they're probably, don't be surprised if they don't try to band together to get the NFL to give them a job, just so they can get them out of the college football. But I think someone else, another great player, it's going to be a snowball effect from the Deion Sanders effect, and people are going to give maybe an Ed Reed a chance to be a head coach. And I think that lasted for like 3 days at an HBCU, but maybe that was a bad example. But they're going to give another Hall of Fame man of color an opportunity to coach because, I mean, if you had to look back 20 years ago and say who would be a great man of color to help with this Rooney Rule on college football level or pro football level, nobody would have said Deion Sanders. Maybe you go Rod Woodson, Hall of Fame cornerback, right? He was assistant coach for a couple NFL teams. I think Ravens, maybe the Raiders, maybe even the Steelers. Maybe he went back there as well. And for teams he played for. But I would have thought more like somebody like that. No, we're talking about a guy who was literally prime time on the field and off the field, is turned into a coaching legend literally overnight. So, and it appears everything he's doing is working. It's not like it's fake. It's not like it's hype. His production is building the hype. It's not he's not dancing on the sidelines. He's not making a rap video after practice. No, his production on the field with his team is actually causing the hype.
He's got receipts. He's making the good old boys in the boardroom a little more comfortable to take a chance. Now the downside.
Yes, he is.
Here's the downside.
Mm-hmm.
Affleck. We may not see him and Saban together on them commercials anymore if he starts whipping that ass. So taking them players.
Man, Deion, I'm watching the Colorado game this past Saturday. I think we saw Affleck. I think I saw Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yes.
I think I saw California almonds. I was like, I didn't know California had an almond. Hey, man, I don't know, but you're going to see Deion and plenty more. And then they bought back the Deion Sanders 95 cross trainer that his son is wearing as a cleat on the field. And I think Deion's wearing them on the sidelines. And Nike is doing it, man. This is crazy. So I think we should just stay tuned. Yep. Let's keep, it's almost like you really hope somebody does well. It's almost like I'm really not even hoping he does well. It's almost like I know he's going to do well. It's a matter of how well he's going to do now. And That's a pretty good place to be for someone who didn't come from a coaching tree, or his father wasn't a coach and grandfather wasn't a coach. And this guy has literally gotten the job. How about this? Because he deserves it. He doesn't look the part like we didn't want to. Like one of the top reasons there aren't more black NFL coaches or Division I football coaches. He doesn't look the part. Well, maybe he doesn't look the part, but he's definitely production looks right. The Colorado guy who hired him, he's getting a promotion soon.
That's it.
Yeah, the AD from Colorado, definitely. He's probably leaving Colorado to go somewhere else. Carlos, I beg to differ with you. I don't believe Deion will go to the NFL. As you said, he does not look the part. And look at the history of the NFL. What has it been? 20 years now? And 3 black coaches, 32 teams. I think they made history on Sunday for kickoff. There were 14 African-American quarterbacks out of the 32 teams, which is unheard of. I remember a time when you didn't have any because they said that, and I think Dallas was the example that they used back then. They said that the quarterback could change the plays at the line 10 times and that the players would not be able to keep up with it. And so that's why African-American quarterbacks couldn't play the game. But I don't think he'll go to the NFL simply because I don't think he fits the mold of an NFL coach or the person they like. And I say that for a number of reasons. I don't know if you've been keeping up with, but on Tuesday, the guy from the NFL Network by the name of Jim Trotter filed a lawsuit against the NFL. And in it, he names quite a few, I think it's 53 pages. And he talked about, he was fired by the NFL and his contract wasn't renewed because last year during the Super Bowl press conference, he asked Roger Goodell a question that embarrassed him. And he talked about the lack of people of color in the NFL network. And at the top, when you have a league of 75% African-American players, he didn't know why people of color hadn't been promoted, nobody on the news desk, and that type of thing. And then he put a caveat on it. He said, you said that you were going to look into this and that something would be done. He said, I asked you this question 2 years ago. He said, and I think he said Alex Baldwin or someone said, you take people at their word, but you take them at what they do and what they say. And so I think he became doomed. But the unique thing was, apparently there was a call, a Zoom call, which had 40 people on the call. And Pagula, who is the owner of the Buffalo Bills, during the call was asked some question that apparently upset him. And he said if the African-American players didn't like it in the NFL, they could go back to Africa and see if it was any better.
This was the owner of the Buffalo Bills.
The owner of the Buffalo Bills.
You know who I'm rooting against for the rest of the season and for life until he's gone.
This is in the lawsuit. But ironically, my guy, Jerry Jones, is in the lawsuit too. Because at one point in time, during one of the meetings, he made a statement that if the Black players didn't like the way they were being treated, that they should buy their own team, hire their own coach, and play.
Well, I'll tell you this: don't let me hit the was it Mega Millions or what's that, or whatever, the other Powerball or whatever, and get $1 gazillion, because I will start.
I got my tickets. Got my tickets.
There you go. I will start the African American Football League, AAFL. I will, look, I think the key is with this, certain ethnic groups have been in control in so many different areas for so long. And I think that, it's, history is one of my best subjects in school. And what I learned through history was that if you take a look at different backgrounds, why was it okay for everybody to immigrate to the country and have power from Europe, but not from Africa? And it simply comes down to skin color, right? I mean, most Europeans, right? The only way you can tell them apart is based on the languages they speak. And sometimes their demeanor in public or body language based on the country they come from. But obviously, anyone of color from Africa, or even a mixture of color, basically, you can tell them right away that they're not, of European descent. And I think that, you would think after since what was it, 1492, when Christopher Columbus arrived here to join our native people, not discover them, but to join them, right? You would think after 500 plus years that somehow people would not feel the same way. I mean, making comments, they can go back to Africa, they can go back and they can get their own team or get their own. That's basically saying if you want to come to my business in my white neighborhood and tell me how to run it, then you can just go back to your Black neighborhood and start your own business and run it the way you want to. That's basically what's being said. Yeah. So it's sad to see those things happen, because I think that, we talk about race relations in the country. I mean, I think most people who have white friends who are of color will tell you those white friends are like some of their best friends in life, because, the bottom line is a few people make it bad for everybody. And I do believe the country has made progress. I think, we would never have seen Obama in office if the people born after 1980 hadn't voted for him. I don't think it was the ones that were born before 1980. I think it was the ones that were born after 1980 who came out and voted for him. So I think we've made progress, but, again, you got older people who they remember a different time. They remember a different time in America and when the world was different. And people who are African Americans did not have a right to speak up about anything. So now they're in power and they own teams and they're billionaires and all these things go down, and they still might feel a certain way. They might, and it's called, I believe, subtle racism. Whereas you say you're not racist, someone can eat in the same restaurant, they can go to the same movie theater, they can watch the same football team play and sit beside you, but you can't own their business. You can never buy their business. You can never date their daughter. You can never date their sister. It's one of those type things, but they're not racist, but you still can't do certain things. And for an African-American player to say, hey, this is what we need to make things right, and for someone to respond about go back to Africa or buy your own team, or that tells me they just simply don't want to hear it. They don't care about it. It's not a priority to them. And this is the way I feel. This is the way I'm going to I feel, and this is the way I'm going to die feeling. So Come on, next generation. We need you, brother. We need everybody. Need the next generation to tie us together because it's ridiculous. What you guys?
These micro and macro aggressions are really stacking up on us. These, along with these Karen incidents and all this other stuff. So,
yeah, Carlos, the thing that kind of troubles me is that, going back to what we were just talking about, you got African American players who are 65 to 75% of the NFL. When you get owners, and I know it's 32 teams, 32 owners, yeah, they're billionaires, but they're billionaires off the back of those African American players. Now, they pay them well, I grant you that. But going back to Colin Kaepernick, Jerry Jones was one of the owners who said that any player on the Dallas Cowboys who took a knee would not be playing for him the next day. You don't threaten me like that, because if you got 60 players on the team and 50 of them are African Americans, and all 50 of them take a knee, and he fires 50 of them, he got 10 players left. Those 10 players are not going to put asses in the seat. They're not going to get you commercials. And guess what? You're going to forfeit 4, 5, or 10 games until you can go to a portal and try to see if you can get some people to come in and play for you. When you have that kind of power, I don't understand why you would let a Jerry Jones just dictate to you and treat you like basically you're a high-paid slave.
I can tell you why. Okay.
And please don't tell me what I hear some of them say, well, I can't afford to do that. I got to feed my family. If you're getting $10 million a year and you haven't put away a few $1 million that will sustain you for 3 or 4 months while you tell that owner to go to hell and don't treat me and talk to me like that, then you are a sad financial manager.
Well, let me tell you this. Here's the deal. And I actually experienced this with a younger female of color who I was in an interaction with, okay? And the interaction was in an area that was predominantly white up until about maybe 20 years ago. When I think about 20 years ago, I'm going to say this. The town we were in 2020, okay? The town we were in 2020. In 2020 was probably 75% Black, whereas just 20 years earlier, it was probably 45% Black. And if you go back to 40 years earlier, in 1980, it was probably probably 1% Black. When I say 1%, literally, I know a family who said there was only 4 Black families in this particular city in 1980, and that they were still going through the 1970s desegregation in the early 80s. The bus Black students into because the schools were completely white. That's how bad. And so you see the progression. And what happened was, in this particular town in Maryland, okay, Gary might know who it is. Mr. Spivey, you might start to know where it is. I'm not gonna call it out. You know, I'll give the good residents of that city a break.
Go ahead. I think I
got a real good idea.
I got a real good idea.
All the Black students got bussed in through desegregation in the 70s and 80s. Okay. The students, as they grow up and they go to the middle school, then they go to the high school there, and they get bussed right back to inside the Beltway to their homes. They're like, man, it's really nice out here, man. It'd be nice if I can get a job one day, to move back out here. So all those kids from the 70s and 80s get desegregated, through desegregation. They came back in the 1990s hard. When they got jobs, they had gone to college in the late 80s, early 90s. And by the end of the 90s, it was suddenly, it wasn't 1-2%, but every year it kept growing. So by the end of the 90s, you had about 45% Black. It's still a majority white, and it just kept growing. 47, 48, 49, 50. Literally to this day, it's probably, I would say, somewhere between 75 and 80% Black in this particular town. So what I'm saying is, change can happen, okay? And I think that, what that young lady told me in this particular town in 2020, myself, the young lady, and this man are having this interaction. the man says out of nowhere, he said, when I moved into this house with my father, I was a 10-year-old boy in 1962, and none of y'all were here. And it was such a pleasant place to be. I'm sitting there, right? I'm sitting there like, she at this time, she's in her 20s, okay? I'm feeling the impact because I was one of those kids that was desegregated out to that middle school in that town in the early 80s, right? So I know what he's talking about. Like I heard people say there's only 3 black people in this whole entire town in the early 80s. So he talking about the 60s, it was none. It was none, okay? And he said that, and she just said, she laughed it off. So to her, because she had never seen any evidence of that, being as young as she was, she didn't have to grow up with that. She didn't have to hear people say it was only 3 black people in town. She didn't have to go through desegregation. And again, this is nothing compared to what our parents went through in the 60s. But because she had never experienced it, it's not a concern. So the NFL players, because a lot of them have never experienced any of this, it's not their concern. They can say what they're probably sitting back right now someplace saying, the owners can say what they want as long as I get my paycheck. They're not into
That's the mindset.
They're not into civil rights for people. They're looking out for themselves and their family, which I can't blame them, but they don't see the bigger picture yet. They probably won't see the bigger picture until they get older. Their daughter who they put through a good school can't get a job or loses a job to someone who's not of color. Until it affects them directly, they don't care. They simply don't care. So Mr. Spivey and Gary, those are my responses on why these young men in the NFL have not joined forces to make the world a better place.
Oh, I agree, man. I agree.
I just think it's a very sad state of affairs.
It is sad.
I mean, because I can tell you this, that example you just gave, let it be a Jewish player, or let the Jewish be 50, 60% of the NFL, and let the 32 owners who are probably, what is the lack of a better word, a trumpeter, let them try that with some Jewish players.
And he can't play. He can't play in Brooklyn no more.
And watch them ban. And I think it's just a bad state of affairs when people won't band together and support their own. It's like when I see situations like a year ago with Kyrie Irving, the incident he got in, and listen to Shaq and Barkley dog him out on TV. If something like that right now, if something would happen with you, Carlos, and somebody would come to me and say, "Oh, he's one of your thought brothers. What do you think about what Carlos did?" I would say, "Well, it's very sad, but I'm sure that there's some extenuating circumstances."
We don't know the whole story.
But I'm not going to say, Carlos shouldn't have did that. I knew that Carlos was probably trouble when I first met him. I'm not going to say anything like that. But this is what our people do. They don't support each other.
That's the bottom line.
I think in the case of Colin Kaepernick, what he went through, if those African-American players had supported him, he'd still be playing in the NFL today.
Absolutely.
Bottom line.
Man,
and
we got to,
because they haven't experienced it, I just don't think that that's an excuse to give them a bye for not banding together and supporting each other.
Bill, let me say this, and then we can move on to another topic. But we have a United States Black senator who doesn't think that there's racism in America. It's a couple of incidents. I'm not going to say his name, Tim Scott from South Carolina. Whoops.
But okay, you brought him up. Let's talk about him. I was reading about him yesterday, and what is happening with him right now is he doesn't have a wife. So people are saying that the brother may be gay. And so he came out yesterday.
As Fred Sanford used to do.
Yeah, they said he might be on the fit. So he came out yesterday and he said, "I have a girlfriend, but I'm not going to disclose who she is because I'm not going to put her in the spotlight." He says, "But what you all are really saying is not that I'm gay. You're saying I'm Black. You're discriminating against me." And I was like, whoa.
Oh, now he got his Black card.
now the D word is applicable when it comes after you. So don't even bring him up.
All right.
Hey, ain't that what OJ and Michael Jackson start claiming racism when things didn't go their way, huh?
They found out. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Well, guys, I will say this. Let's, there's a lot of positive, and I want to say to all our viewers that aren't of color, okay, that our white brothers, our white sisters, we love you, because if you're watching us and you're supporting us and you have friends of color and we're all in this together. I think we just all need to treat each other with love, respect, and dignity. And if the world did that on all levels, we wouldn't even be talking about that right now. But we have to talk about it because it just simply doesn't happen on a regular basis. I mean, that's the deal. That's the deal. So with that being said, not to go from Deion or the NFL or athletes or all these crazy situations, but Serena Williams is retired, but Coco Gauff has suddenly stepped up and became the U.S. Open champion. And when I think about this, I'm pulling it right now because I just had the name up. The young lady she beat was Aryna Sabalenka. Aryna Sabalenka. And I'm not sure which country she comes from, but I believe it's a European country that's somewhere close to Russia. She said something after the match, and I could tell it seemed like she was really upset. Obviously you lost the U.S. Open when you were ranked. I guess she was going to be ranked number one, or it ended up being ranked number one or whatever. But she lost to Coco Gauff, and she had beaten her before. And you know what? It makes me think that with sports, man, people are really going through something, because she made a statement. She didn't make the usual statement of, okay, good match, I'll be back, and we'll play again, but congratulations today. She didn't say it like that. She said something to the effect, if you go back and look at it, she wished she had played better, and she knows her family's going to be really disappointed with her. And when I heard that, I'm thinking to myself, her family's going to, what about you? Are you playing? Is there some type of international restriction on you? Do you get punished when you go back to your homeland, like because you lost? Like I thought that was a very interesting statement. I think after doing some further research, I think she, obviously with the accent, she's from another country close to Russia or whatever, but I think she might have a home in Florida, but I don't think that's a home. I think that she was sent to Florida because they have the best tennis coaches, and usually in the country or the world, for some reason they take up residence in Florida, I think because of the year-round conditions to train outside. But from that perspective, I felt sort of bad. But on the other hand, Coco Gauff, 19 years old, a great young lady, and I like the way, even when things don't go her way, she really knows how to express herself, where she gets her point across, but she's never disrespectful. So I think she is the type of champion we need in America and in the world, who can voice their opinion in a way in which makes people listen, but then she can go out on the court and back it up. And, to see her at 19 doing this, and she's been playing, I think, in the U.S. Open since she was 15 or 16. Wow, that's pretty good. Some kids at 15 to 16 still having a problem just getting dressed in the morning and going to school. It's crazy. You know what I'm talking about? And she's playing the U.S. Open like 15 to 16 and 19. She's finally broken through. So I want to salute Coco Gauff and her family. To the other lady who lost to her, I'm sure she's a great tennis player as well. I'm sure she'll come back and do very well. But right now, that was really impressive with Coco, because she lost the first set? And she came back and got the second and third. And what are you guys' thoughts on this, man? This is pretty positively shocking.
She was proud. I think she represented well.
Yeah, Sabalenka just came apart. The one thing you have to know about her, if you follow tennis, I follow it very closely, is with her, it's all or nothing. She's not going to adjust her game or anything. She's going to hit all out, and she goes for the win every time, with her shots and that type of thing. But she did get caught on camera after the match when she went into they have a cool down room. That was where they went during one of the tennis events when there was a protest or something at the other match prior to this one, and one of the guys glued his feet to the stadium, and they had to, it held up the match for over an hour because there were some environmentalists in the stands during Coco Gauff's match before the final, and they had to. It was roughly an hour. It took them because the guy had glued his bare feet to the cement, and they had police officers and everything, and they had to call the fire department in to try to get his feet loose, and it took an hour or so. And Coco Gauff and them were in this what they call the cool down room, and she got caught after the ceremony and everything. She went into the cool down room, and there was nobody in there but her. And she should have figured, I guess she didn't think about it, that there were cameras in there. And she took her racket and she just tore it up. She beat the wall, she beat the floor, and then she went over and threw the racket in the trash can. And they were saying
this is Sabalenka?
Sabalenka, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
wow.
She's from somewhere very close to Russia. That's why during the tennis match, you'll see the players' flags up beside their name. Okay. And all of those players, whenever you're looking at tennis and there's a blank there, just a black screen, that means that they're from the Soviet bloc country.
Okay. Okay. All right.
And you're right. I mean, you can, I mean, those countries over there, they spend a lot of money for you to become excellent and proficient. And you can be maybe not punished, but you can be isolated when you go back home when you lose, because they don't lose in kindly.
Now we know the story of Rocky and Ivan Drago, right?
That's right.
Was it the most successful Rocky film was Rocky IV versus Ivan Drago. And when they came back and did Creed II, they talked about how Ivan Drago had gone home after he lost to Rocky and had lived literally in exile, got divorced from his wife, and the only thing he had left was to train his young son to be a boxer, right? He had nothing. He was no longer a man of wealth or fame. He was a disgrace to the country. So, you see that in the movie, right? But all the things that are movies are, right, inspired off some truth or something that happened somewhere, right? Is she feeling like she is, shamed because she lost? And then you hate to do it, but you did lose to a sister, so it's like, but she said it, and like you said, she wouldn't. I mean, so it almost lets me think that I hope that her country does not disown her and treat her bad, and give her some crazy ultimatum. You win the next Grand Slam, or I mean, it could be because in Rocky IV, that was pretty much it. I mean, they were even shooting him up with steroids, I think, but he had to win. And they just knew he was going to win, and it was pretty shocking when he didn't. So I think we got a similar situation here, possibly in real life, where that could be the case because her actions and her message said it. But that was not the most intriguing topic of that match. Do you guys know what I'm about to say, right? You know what I'm about to say. Why was Eddie Kane from the Five Heartbeats sitting with Coco Gauff's mama? Why was that? That was Eddie Kane, Leon, the actor Leon, sitting with Coco Gauff's mama at the match, hugging everybody like he was a relative. And I think I looked it up online and said he's not related to him at all. I don't know. Can somebody bring me up to date on why Eddie Kane from was it a Five Heartbeats reunion in New York City?
Didn't he play David Ruffin?
He also played David Ruffin in The Temptation.
He got the right man.
David Ruffin.
Yes,
he got the right man. I think he was in Above the Rim with Tupac. Tupac's big brother or something?
Yeah, he was. There was a time when Leon was in everything.
I don't know what's going on.
He was in everything before Sam Jackson came out.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Look, I don't know what was going on, but he was up there hugging like his family member had won the Super Bowl. I don't know, man. But
he may have been a close member of the family. I'll tell you what was interesting. Coco Gauff, I don't know if you heard her acceptance speech after she got the trophy, but she made a statement. She said something to all of the naysayers who said that I could not win.
Yeah, I think that's powerful.
You thought you were pouring water on my fire, but what you were doing was you were pouring gasoline on my fire. And she said, now my fire is burning bright.
My old football coach
said, I saw her I saw her on the morning show, and she said up to 1 hour. And she said, I know I shouldn't, but she said up to 1 hour before my match, I was reading what people were saying about me, and they were saying I could not win the US Open and beat Sabalenka. So,
Amen. Amen. I think that's very fitting and very cool. So, and you know what? Afterwards, if you notice, she got on her. She went to the side. She prayed, and then she made a couple phone calls. And the group of family members I was watching the match with said, "Well, who is she calling? Why is she on the phone?" I said, "She probably calling. If she got any siblings, she probably calling her siblings. And she
That's
probably
what she was
calling."
calling.
And in the Black community, you always got to call your grandmama. If your grandmama alive, you got to call your grandmama because you know she'd be like, "Hey, baby, come on, you got to call your grand." And sure enough, she said, "Who you?" Yeah, I tried to call my brother. I think she said, but he ain't answer or something. Now call my grandmama. I knew it. I knew it, man.
Yeah.
That's who you call. That's who you call. Your mom and daddy already there. So who
Yeah.
else you gonna call? You call your siblings and your grandmama. Come on, man.
But she did say on the show yesterday morning, she talked to her boyfriend until 1 o'clock in the morning because she couldn't go to sleep.
All right. All right.
I ain't mad at her.
Yeah, you know, young lady. All right. Hey, look, that just means she's a normal 19-year-old after all. So good for her.
Yep.
Oh man. Hey, look, man, we talk about. I'm glad we started to show some positivity, man. But you know, there's always some crazy stuff. And before we go to the craziest situation, hey man, what's happening? You think how much money we gonna waste this year on trying to impeach a president? Because I think they're trying to impeach Biden now for his son's dealings. And come on, man, what's going on with the impeachment process that's been suggested or recommended or proposed or started for President Biden? What's going on, man? Everybody impeach.
We ain't got enough time to discuss that bullshit. They trying to make Joe Biden look like the optics that he is as bad as Trump.
What's going on, man?
Come on. Hey, look,
and you know,
that's a bunch of malarkey. That's a bunch of malarkey.
The thing, Gary, is they had somebody that testified a couple of days ago who was supposed to be their key witness that was going to be able to link all of this shit together. Yeah. And guess what? He said the president never gotten involved in any conversation of business dealings. He said, I was at a couple of dinners with he and his son, and he was there, and we talked about everything else, but we never talked about business. And you know, the crazy thing with this whole thing is Trump is pushing this. I mean, he is pushing this, and what they have no evidence whatsoever. So now their backs are up against the wall because they're getting ready to waste all this money on an impeachment proceeding. So what they're saying now is that they're not doing an impeachment proceeding. They're doing an impeachment inquiry.
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, what they're going to do is they're going to send out a bunch of subpoenas, and they're going to try to put subpoenas on people, forcing them to come in, testify. I would have thought that they would have learned their lesson recently with Jim Jordan sending that bullshit down there to Fonnie Willis. And she said, I mean, he shot a shotgun shell back, but this woman sent a scathing letter to him and basically told him Congress has no jurisdiction over anything that goes on in Fulton, Georgia, and stay in your lane. Yeah. And also, these are a few items that you all should be looking at. And you should also be looking at all the threats that me and my family have received. So
I'm going to tell you this, man. I don't want to cut you off, Mr. Spivey. I'm going to tell you this. Here's what I think, man. I'm just going to make it real quick. Because we know all the stuff that's going on. Is some, you know, you got a lot of craziness going on out there, right? I understand exactly where both of y'all coming from. But I'm going to tell you like this. Hunter Biden is probably hanging out with Jared Kushner. That's Donald Trump's son-in-law. They both privileged. They both do what they want when they want. And I think what we need to do is go ahead and kick them to the curb because they ain't running for no office. They just one's related by marriage to the son-in-law, and one's a son. And you know, they all got their own issues, right? So let's kick them to the curb. We ain't worried about them. And then there was somebody in the news this week. I'm not sure if it was a Republican or a Democrat, but I think it might be somebody running for president who said something crazy like, if the founding fathers had thought about the requirements for president, they would have probably imposed an age limit because the Americans want to see an energetic president. They don't want two guys that are around 80. They should be retired. They want an energetic president, and they probably would have definitely had that age limit in there. So we need some vibrant young president running around here, take care of this business. Now, and again, truthfully, I don't know how you do the world's toughest job at 80 years old. that's hard. You could have a heart attack at 50 being the president of the United States. And at 80, I think at some point, some people need to let go. Nancy Pelosi don't need to run no more for any position. She's like 83. Can I get, come on, Chris Rock. Can Chris Rock run? Dave Chappelle, somebody. Look, we need somebody. Was it Amy Cooler? One of them comedians? I take Jerry Seinfeld. He's a young man in the game now, about 65. Come on, man. We need somebody who ain't 80. And we don't need to be worried about the children running around here, the privileged children running around causing trouble, doing what they do. We just need some legitimate politicians who can actually go to work and not have to worry about them passing out because of their age or health, and ain't got no kids running around doing no crazy stuff, man. That's what we need. We didn't.
Where do you suggest we go find them?
I tell you what, we might have to start a political farm and just try to grow some kids.
Because you ain't gonna get none of them out of the senators and the Congress.
Have a special school, so, keep them in a plastic bubble, and we just have to mold them from the ground up because it's crazy, man. Or if not, I know where we can go. We got a man who can literally touch a player on his helmet and heal him and have him get up. Do you believe in Coach Prime for president? Come on, man.
I'm telling you, Carlos, this is serious, and it's gonna get real serious.
Hey, look, there's been other athletes that ran for president. Coach Prime is on pace. If he stays at the current pace of production every year for the rest of his life, he might be a president at 65 years old. We'll see. We'll see what Coach Prime can do. Come on, Coach Prime for president.
Yeah. I don't know who's going to be the president in 2024, but I think if we don't get serious about it, I think you might have some trouble down the road. You ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, we in a heap of trouble. We in a heap of trouble already.
We're in a heap of trouble.
Yeah.
We are.
And so,
we are, man. We are. We got what else going on out there, man? I mean, I know we've been having some great conversations about all the positive things. We got into the politics at the end. What's going on down there in Memphis, Mr. Spivey? What's going on down there? We heard something.
The only thing going on in Memphis, the 5 brothers down there and got themselves jammed up, and they had violated a man's civil rights. And on Tuesday, I think they were indicted in federal court. And a couple of the charges that they have on them, I think the excessive force and failure to intervene, they're looking, and the witness tampering, they're looking at 20 years on each of those charges. But there's a couple of other ones that could land these young men in jail for the rest of their life. It's just going to be interesting to see what's going to happen. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at what's going on now, but it amazes me they're going to drop the hammer on these guys, and they should, no doubt. Please don't get me wrong, but it brings me back to a time that I can remember with Rodney King in a similar situation, and it was determined that the police officers did nothing wrong, and so different times.
Again, we live in a country where it seems like it's 2 sets of laws, 2 sets of rules, 2 sets of hiring criteria, 2 sets of glass ceilings, 2 sets of, it's a parallel universe where one set of people could do well and sometimes some can't. Look, all we got to do is just choose the best candidate every single time. All we got to do is treat people with the same and with respect each and every day. It'll all work out much better. Look, the man in Colorado said, you know what? Let me just hire the best possible coach I can get. I ain't gonna worry about whether he's black, white, Latino, Asian, whatever. Whatever. He said, I'm just gonna hire the best coach I can get in Colorado. I don't know what's gonna happen to Colorado for the rest of the season, but they already exceeded last year's win total. Sounds like a win to me. So I think if the world could be like that, more people can take chances and just treat people equally in all the different categories of law, health, education, athletics, political, aspirations, etc. Maybe the world will be a better place. So I think we just got to keep fighting the fight, keep talking the talk. Again, we love our white brothers, love our white sisters, and we love everybody. And we just all need to work together. We can't let a few people spoil it for the entire country. So in the entire world. So I think things are changing, but we need to, like I said, got to keep our foot on the pedal. We can't take your foot off the pedal now. Take your foot off the pedal. What's the car going to do? The car going to slow down. We need to keep the car full speed if you're going to get to where we need to be at, because the world is a pretty big place, and 25 miles per hour, you ain't going to make it in your lifetime around the world. But if we keep the foot on the pedal, we might get to where we need to be at. So that's my final thought.
Well, I tell you what, since we running out of time, but since we getting ready to run out of time, what is Coach Prime gonna do this weekend? Are we 3-0? Are we 3-0? Here's my prediction: 3-0, 54 points. We're running up 54 points. Do you believe?
I believe.
Colorado will be Colorado State. Like I said, looking at the schedule, I'm only seeing Oregon and USC, which are the next two games after this Colorado State game. I believe they'll go 3-0, then they'll go 3-2. But then after that, I mean, unless UCLA trips them up, I just don't think that. I think they're going to go 10-2 in the season. I think that's where they're going to go. And then they get a bowl game against somebody. 2 wins will take you out of the national championship picture. But I think 10-win season for a team that won 1 game last year is a victory. Can they win the Pac-12 and play in the Rose Bowl? That is a possibility. But if they lose the 2 games to USC and Oregon, that would be 2 losses in the conference. So we'll have to see how that shakes out. Now, it's a possibility. They don't have the strongest conference, but it's a possibility. We'll see what happens. So I think they go 10-2. I think they get a good bowl game. It won't be a BCS bowl. And I think next year, Deion will have even more recruits. And I think they do make it to a BCS next year. That's just my prediction. But I think against Colorado State has, I'm not even sure what their record is, but there's no hype. They're not ranked the last time I checked. I think it's safe to say Deion's he preached how great he spoke about how great the offense was in game 1, how great the defense, actually in special teams, was in game 2. So I think the key here is to put the perfect game together. You know, I think that if they score, I think 31-7 would be a complete game. You're talking about 4 offensive touchdowns, a field goal, and hold the other team to just 1 simple touchdown. I think if they beat Colorado State by 31-7, Deion can come back and say, my offense played well, my defense played well, my special teams played well, and we are still getting better. So that's what I'm going to predict that.
All right. Mr.
So I take from what you're saying is they're going to get beat by Oregon and they're going to get beat by UCLA.
USC, I think it's USC.
Mm-hmm. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Now, if Deion pulls them off, he is truly a man who can work miracles.
I'm starting to wonder about whether or not you really believe, Carlos.
Well, I believe.
I don't think he really believes, because I think Colorado is going to beat Oregon. They may lose to USC. And as far as the bowl games, which one is the most expensive bowl game that you would say?
You mean what it produces the most revenue?
Yeah.
I believe the Rose Bowl.
Rose Bowl, I think so.
That's the
so what I'm going to say to you is, I don't care what they think about Deion, but they know that if Deion is playing in that game, that it's going to bring at least 20 million more people to watch it. So if Colorado has any kind of decent season, they'll play in the Rose Bowl. Because Deion will bring the people. He'll bring the fans.
Now keep this in mind. The Rose Bowl, it's the winner. It's the winner of the Pac-12 versus the Big Ten. So they can make that. The Rose Bowl is usually one of the BCS bowl games. So depending upon where their final rankings fall at, would determine if it's a semifinal game or a final game. Like, you know, so keep that in mind. So that's what it's going to come down to with the Rose Bowl. So I don't know if Deion, it's still, because that's the conference that he's in. One of those teams generally has to come from the Pac-12. That's exactly what we're running into. So right, that's what could throw it off. But I'm with you. Based on ratings, we got to get Deion on TV every week. The same way Notre Dame is on TV every week, we got to get Deion on TV every week. And if he don't get to the BCS bowls, then he'll be in the next bowl right after that. Like, we got the rose, orange, sugar, and cotton.
Yeah, Cotton Bowl.
Man, if he's in the Orange Bowl.
Or is it the Fiesta? Because it's only 4 major bowls. And maybe the Fiesta, yeah. But
Rose Bowl, Cotton Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, and the Orange Bowl.
Orange Bowl.
Okay, so he might make it to like the Sugar Bowl, which would be the next bowl outside the 4 major ones. Then the Sugar.
So you're not putting him in one. So you're not putting him in any of the major 4.
Because once you lose 2 games, you're usually out. You have to go undefeated or lose 1 game to get.
So I got him at 11-1.
Right, to get to the Final Four. Now, if he does that, yes. If he only loses 1 game, they will definitely put him in the Final Four, which is the 2 teams, 1 versus 4 and 2 versus 3 to play for the national championship game. So they will definitely do that if he goes 1 game. I totally agree with you on that.
Man,
so we got to watch that Oregon game close. That's going to be the kicker, the Oregon game. Right.
I got Winnebagos going all the way down 95, all the way with their Buffalo flag. You got to believe. Come on now. All right, folks.
Well, from what I understand, the number of people that were in the stands last Saturday for the first game was nothing like they've had in the last 3 to 4 years. And they said fans coming on the field at the end of a game.
Oh yeah.
They did on Saturday was unheard of in Colorado. And now I understand in Colorado, you got prime burgers, you got prime everything over.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So trust me, if they can get Deion and work him into a bowl game, he'll be there because he'll bring the money and he'll bring the people. And guess what? He'll bring the stars.
You're right about that.
He'll bring the stars. Because right now, I think Warren Sapp has come down and talked to his team. Terrell Owens was throwing balls with his son. And Michael Irvin was on the
Michael Irvin's been there
in a jersey. And they say NFL players are just waiting in line to come down there to hang out with them.
Hold on. Terrell Owens didn't show up for his own Hall of Fame induction, but he showed up at Deion's first game in Colorado.
That's exactly right.
Time. That's the magic.
It's prime time. It's prime time. Hall of Fame ain't prime time.
All right, fellas, look here.
All right.
It is that time. The clock on the wall says that's all, but we will be at our TVs checking it out. And until next time, we are the Thought Brothers, and we are out of here.
Peace. Enjoy the game.
Believe.
All right, enjoy.
All right.
See you next week.